Welcome. College basketball tip-off show for this Friday, February the 16th, the calm before the storm. That's because we have 15 college basketball games for Friday, but we have a slew of games on Saturday, the biggest card of the week, of course, tomorrow. And there's no NBA unless you're betting the slam dunk contest or the skills competition. We do have the NBA All-Star game on Sunday, but the NBA is off for the next week. So you better pay attention to college basketball. That's where the money is on the hardwood for the next several days and nights. I am Steve Merrill, filling in for Joe Ranieri. Hey, if you joined us yesterday, Lemoyne in overtime, never in doubt. Free play here on the show. Joe, of course, can contractually not be on when we talk about Lemoyne or the day after, so he'll be back on Monday. But I am joined by two of the best at WagerTalk.com when it comes to breaking down college hoops, Bryan Leonard and Rob Vino himself. And Bryan, we talked about this the other week when you and I began in the 90s, and Rob. We get maybe, 4 Ivy League games on a Friday. We call it quits,
Mhm.
but we do get some decent matchups now. And 13 on the main board, 2 on the extra board. We're going to have a big game breakdown from everybody. And then we're going to circle back and get a best bet for the show. And I am dumpster diving. I'm going on the extra board tonight on Friday, so stay tuned. But before we do that, let's look at your big game breakdown, Bryan Leonard. And you're going to talk about New Mexico, San Diego State, the late night game, 10 o'clock Eastern on Fox Sports 1. And this is one of those good matchups like I was talking about. So this is a legitimate big game breakdown. Who are you leaning towards in this one?
Yeah, this is a very good conference. They've been very good, more than just one team. The last few years have been very good. San Diego State proved it last year, and I think they may get 5 representatives this year in the big dance. We'll see how it goes. But New Mexico, San Diego State, big game here. Huge showdown in the Mountain West Conference with the battle for second place. Lobos 20-5, 8-4 in conference. But they started the season only 1-3 straight up on the road, but have now won 4 straight, including a very impressive 83-82 win at Nevada last time out. Nevada, one of the toughest home courts in all of college basketball, very similar to San Diego State. And for them to win 4 straight, including that victory last time out, this is a team in New Mexico that I'm really starting to believe in. The Wolfpack were 12-1 at home before the earlier meeting against San Diego State, and they won that game. So they a little bit of revenge here for the Aztecs. In fact, New Mexico beat them pretty handily, 88-70, just over a month ago. So they're going into facing revenge, but they're also doing so against a team who's undefeated at home, and that's San Diego State. Now, while that produces a favorable spot for the Aztecs here, we feel the line is just a little bit too much here. Up at 5.5, is now at 6.5. Our numbers made it closer to 4 as we rank the Lobos slightly better in what is a real strong conference, as I mentioned. The Aztecs have dominated in this building, but their poor play on the road against good teams does have us concerned. They lost at Nevada, Colorado State, Boise State, and New Mexico. And that tells us this San Diego State team, while very good, isn't nearly what they were in the last few years. So I will gladly take 6.5 points here with the New Mexico team, who on a neutral, I've got them basically even.
Bryan Leonard says, play the dog in the late night matchup. That's the Fox Sports 1 game at 10 o'clock Eastern tonight. Little big game breakdown there. And Rob Vino, you've got another pretty good matchup here. Seems to me like VCU plays every Friday night. Am I mistaken? And we talk a lot about these teams on the Friday show, it seems. And you are breaking down the VCU game tonight as your big game breakdown. It's VCU at St. Louis. I think it's smart for these conferences. I mean, you could almost call this a mid-major. Sneak in on Friday night, kind of like the MAC does during the week during college football, and not get lost in the shuffle. But what's your take on this VCU St. Louis game tonight on Friday?
Yeah, they've come a long way since the first time we talked about them, Steve. I think they were playing George Mason maybe about 3.5, 4 weeks
Yeah,
ago.
you and I both talked that game, I think, that day. Yeah.
Yeah. And at that point in time, it looked like George Mason was the better basketball team, but things change quickly in college hoop, right? The season goes quick, things change quick, especially when conference season starts. And for VCU and first year head coach Ryan Odom, they've certainly turned the tables here. And this one we have a little something to dive back into. They do have a earlier meeting this season. Virginia Commonwealth at home won by 24 points against St. Louis, 85-61. They were 8.5-point favorites. They led 36-26 at half. They extended it in the second half. They were without one of their starting guards, Zeb Jackson, in that game. He's their third leading scorer. They got 4 guards, including their point, that are kind of all multiple threats. They really cover all aspects of the game, those 4 guys. But Zeb Jackson didn't go. It didn't matter. Joe uh, Joe Bamisile actually had 29 in that game, or Joe Bamisile, excuse me. And the rest of the guys came through as well. Max Shulga, he leads the team in points and assists. So they've got threats all over the floor. But the biggest thing about them is their defensive threats. Just like the old VCU, maybe not, Shaka Smart's havoc defense, but boy, at defending the perimeter, VCU number 1 in the conference. And I think in that game kind of indicates what we're going to see here tonight. They held St. Louis to 20% shooting from beyond the arc in that game. St. Louis goes 4 for 20. They get outscored from beyond the arc, 33-12 in that game. There's your difference. I mean, VCU wins by 24. They win by 21 at the 3-point line. So basically, that's your difference in the game. Commonwealth shot 51.6 from the field, 47.8 from 3. Superb numbers for a team that doesn't generally shoot terrific overall. But we'll get to the good part of this. It's just a bad matchup for St. Louis when you look at it, guys, because St. Louis is really dependent upon making threes at this point in time. 58th in the nation in 3-point field goal percentage, but 270th in 2-point field goal percentage. We saw it the other day against St. Joe's, where they played their tails off against St. Joe's, lose 86-85, I think it was, made a lot of buckets from beyond the arc. But against this team, which ranks number 1 in the A10, only allowing 28% from 3, it didn't happen the first time, and I don't know that it's going to happen this time either. And when I flip the ball around, St. Louis is the second worst defensive team in that league. Virginia Commonwealth is number 1 in 3-point shooting, number 1 in free throw shooting, and guess who gives up the 3rd highest free throw rate in the league? St. Louis. So there's a lot of matchups here that really favor VCU. For St. Louis, I mean, they might get their senior point guard, Michael Meadows, back for this game. But you know what? He played the first game, and they lost by 24. It was a non-factor. 0 for 5 from 3, only scored 5 points. So if Michael Meadows comes back, I don't know that makes a difference. VCU has Zeb Jackson back. They didn't have him the first time. St. Louis at home this year, 1-4 straight up and against the spread, getting beat pretty good by teams. Virginia Commonwealth, 8-1 straight up in ATS in their last night. The number started 5.5, Steve. It's down to 5 now. I think it's worth laying here. It seems to me that, this team, Virginia Commonwealth, won by 24 the first time. They should be able to win by 8 or more this time. And they only need to win by 6. So I'm going to play it that way. VCU, all the advantages minus the 5 points.
Yeah, we talk about revenge a lot in college basketball, and it's not necessarily revenge. It's second meetings because you can dig into those box scores. And you see a lot of things here where, VCU shot lights out. St. Louis didn't on the road. But you're right, it might not necessarily reverse itself here. And what jumps out to me, Rob, is that look at the efficiency rankings. VCU, the 34th best defense in the country this season. And boy, is St. Louis down on that list. You got to go all the way to the bottom. They're 314th. So a huge, almost a 300-point difference in efficiency ranking. So there again, you don't want to ask a team that has that much of a mismatch to maybe get their revenge here. So Rob says it's a sweep and not revenge for VCU tonight on the road at 7 Eastern. That's your ESPN2 national TV game. All right, we're going to circle back around now and get some best bets from each of us on the way out. And Brian, I'll start with you. And I talked about the Ivy League, so we'd be remiss if we did not use at least one Ivy League game on a Friday night here for old school viewers. So what's something that you like tonight in the Ivies?
Yeah, I'm going to take a look at the Dartmouth-Columbia game. Big Green, one of the weakest teams in college basketball this season. 5-15 on the year, 1-6 in the Ivy League. They rank in my power rankings 331st. So they're not a very good team. Overall, Dartmouth have dropped 8 of the last 9 games. We take a look at their offensive effective field goal percentage. It's just 45.5, one of the lowest in college basketball. Defensive number, 52.4%. So they're down in just about every game they're in because of their shooting. On the road, the Big Green has scored 59, 58, 51, 53, 57, and 54 points. Their last 6 traveling spots. It's a team that's offense is poor. It's even worse on the road. Columbia just did beat Dartmouth the other day on the road, 72-56, less than 2 weeks ago. So many will point out the quick revenge for the visitor. But as you stated many times, Steve, just because you have revenge doesn't mean it means anything. And that's the situation here with the team in Dartmouth that seems to lose all the time. So revenge is nothing to them. If they were a good team, I'd pay more attention to it. Columbia 12-8 on the season, but just 3-4 in league play. So it's even though they're having a successful season here, they need to get it in gear in league play the rest of the year. And I think they got a good spot to grab a victory here. The team is 8-2 straight up at home this season, and the line is pretty cheap. It's 9.5 out there right now. I made it about 11.5, so that gives me enough room to play Columbia here, minus the points at home against Dartmouth.
Yeah, and something else I say all the time, Brian, is that I don't like playing bad offensive teams on the road in college basketball. And Dartmouth is currently 357th out of 362 in offensive efficiency. So they're technically the sixth worst offensive team in the country. And trust me, there's some bad offensive teams in the country, and they're right up there. So, once again, it's the same thing in college football, right? When you're looking for a team to win by margin, you don't want that backdoor cover potential. You want a bad offensive team, and Dartmouth definitely has very little backdoor cover potential, in my opinion, tonight in that game. It's Brian Leonard breaking down the Ivy League old school. Rob, we're going to get to another one of those big national TV games for your play. I believe this is CBS Sportsnet at 7 Eastern. Georgetown, Villanova. What are you doing in this one?
Well, this one, you'll be proud of me, Steve. This one's sheer mathematics. The
God, I
math
love math.
just tells me that, you know what, that one of these numbers in this game, side or total, is off a little bit. It seems like money early this afternoon here on the East Coast has agreed, but I'm going to play it over 140.5. Now, the opener was 39. It kind of hung around 39.5 for most of the morning here, like I say, on the East Coast, and then pushed up to 40.5 within the last 90 minutes or so. I agree with it. Georgetown, they're the underdog in this game. Ed Cooley, swaps Providence for Georgetown. Don't ask me why, but I guess for sentimental reasons. But it hasn't been successful. That's for sure. This is going to be it's going to take a little bit of time to get Georgetown back to where he wants them to be. But as bad as they are, they've gone over this number, 140.5, 9 games in a row. They haven't had a final score total under 144 in 9 straight games. Their defense is miserable, second worst in the Big East, and they score enough. They're constantly in chase mode. They wind up scoring enough to push these things over these types of totals. You get a little bit of a bargain here as far as the total being weighed down somewhat because Villanova's been on such a good defensive roll. And Villanova is not generally a fast-paced team. But the good news where Villanova is concerned is the offense is starting to click a little bit. 80-plus points in 3 of their last 5. It's been an issue all season long. But finally, these guys who were expected to shoot have, for the most part, started to shoot. And I think it probably continues here against this defense, which really doesn't stop anybody inside the conference overall. Villanova games are averaging 139.9, right on the tip of 140. And we're looking to get over 140.5 here against a bad defense. So I think that math in that instance tells me get up and over 140.5. The Villanova defense, as I mentioned, it's a little bit of a concern. They haven't given up 60 points in 3 straight games. They've played very hard. Like I say, they're scoring better. They're playing better defense. But Georgetown, as bad as they are, they've been held to less than 60 only one time in their last 11 Big East games. So, again, you've got a team that's typically in chase mode, gets cheap points because the other team lays off the gas. You're talking about a 10-point favorite here. The same scenario could play out in this game where Villanova gets up. They tend to let off the gas. Maybe Georgetown at home scores a few. If you're just looking at home score, final total average for Georgetown in this building, 148.6. That's 8 better than what we need. They score 73 points a game inside this arena. So I think there's a lot of things, again, Steve, all mathematical here. I mean, the matchups are what they are. Villanova's got the better personnel. Georgetown's a lousy defense. But I think that the numbers speak to this thing being just a tick too low. I think the money was right pushing it up from 39 to 140.5. I'm still going to play it over 140.5. I think from what you see here, the results suggest that you have wiggle room up to at least 143. So we'll take it as today's best bet for this show. Villanova, Georgetown, up and over 140.5. I could see Villanova maybe getting in excess of 83, 85 points in that area tonight.
Robino loves math, and he loves overs. You got both of them right there. That's your national TV game at 7 Eastern on CBS Sports Network, Villanova, Georgetown, over the total. We're going to have a gold sheet play in just a moment. I'm going to get you a free play as well. We had 2 big game breakdowns, but 4 free best bets here on the show. Don't forget Brian Leonard, Rob Vino, myself, Steve Merrill. We all have best bets for Friday and, of course, Saturday. It's a huge weekend, whether it's Brian's NHL. Saturday is the biggest card there. It's college basketball, or Rob's or my college basketball. This Saturday, you don't want to miss at WagerTalk.com. Rest of February is still available for just over $10 a day. No promo code needed with that all-access special. I've also got a buy one, get one still available for college and pro hoops combined. Instant 50% discount. Works out to about $3 a play for the next 30 days and nights. I've got a strong college basketball best bet tonight on Friday. 5-2 already this week. We've swept the board 3 of the 4 nights so far, so check that out. Bonus free play, which I'm not going to give you here. I want you to go to my page to get that bonus free play. But a free play for the show, we're going to go to the extra board, the ugly board, the extra board here. There are 2 games there tonight, and I'm looking at Queens, North Carolina, minus the 1.5. The Royals, it's technically Queens University of Charlotte Royals. That's a mouthful. So we just abbreviate North Carolina. But this is an interesting setup for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's their second or third year, whatever it is in Division I basketball. They've played Jacksonville once each the past 2 years. Both have been on the road, and they've lost close games both times. And now they finally get a chance to play them at home. And the game this year was about 3-4 weeks ago, mid-January. Lost by 2, 79-77. High-scoring game in which Queens blew an 11-point halftime lead. And they lost by only 2 despite shooting just 39.5% from the field and just 49% from the free throw line. You'd say, well, normally 49% from the free throw line, that's what, a couple extra points. Not when you take 43 free throw attempts. They were 21 for 43 from the charity stripe, and they lost by 2. It's good news when you get to the road 43 times to the charity stripe, because normally home teams get the benefit of the calls. It's human nature. It's emotion for the refs. They don't realize it. Subconscious. So I think they get some calls tonight. They obviously have a matchup edge down low. If they hit anywhere near their season of 71% from the free throw line, including 76% at home, they would have won that game by double digits maybe. So it's an interesting, we'll call it revenge, but second meeting angle, digging into that box score. I think there is value with Queens minus the 1.5 tonight. By the way, one of the fastest up-tempo teams in the country, currently top 10 in pace, and they will dictate that tonight at home in Charlotte. Take a look at Queens on the added board, minus the 1.5. I've got a strong best bet tonight, and I've got a bonus play in the Yale Penn game, which you got to go to my page to find out. But if you want the Gold Sheets take on it, stay tuned right now, because that's the Gold Sheet play of the day. The same game I'm using as a free play on my page, and they like Penn +6 against Yale. And the Gold Sheet points out Yale has a big game against Princeton tomorrow for first place in the Ivy League on the line. Maybe a little bit of a look-ahead spot. Penn has also only played 2 home games in the last 6 weeks. And at home, the Quakers, 8-2 straight up, averaging almost 82 points a game. And this is a quick turnaround revenge spot. They just played a couple games back as well for Penn. So it all adds up. The Gold Sheet says to a solid play on Pennsylvania Quakers plus the 6. And there's your recap. The 4 free plays here on the show, the best bets for Friday night. Rob Vino, once again, his math and his love for overs has Georgetown, Villanova going over 140.5. Brian Leonard went Ivy League with Columbia minus 9.5. Myself, Steve Merrills, I went to the extra board with Queens minus 1.5 in North Carolina. And once again, the Gold Sheet went Ivy with Penn +6. Check out those daily free plays at WagerTalk.com for numerous cappers. And, of course, check out Brian Leonard, Rob Vino, myself, Steve Merrill for our Friday night best bets and this weekend on Saturday. I'll be back to host Last Call tomorrow, Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern. So there is some live programming here on Saturday. So check that out. Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern. We take your comments, your chat questions on live games that are about to start, and we take a deep dive into college basketball tomorrow on Saturday. So join us here on Wager Talk TV. Yet another reason, hit subscribe and hit that bell for instant alerts when the shows and free play videos go live each and every day. Don't forget, comment below. We read the comments. We reply back. Thumbs up, like. Enjoy the games. Have a great Friday night, and good luck this weekend as well.